welcome, a surprisingly warm welcome. So I am grateful to each and every one of you for being here. John and those folks that helped put this lunch on today, thank you so much. I know all of you are busy folks. You've got a lot of responsibility, and to take time out of your day to come and spend a little time with me, I truly, truly appreciate it. And I thought I might talk for just a few minutes, and then if you all had any questions of me, something you might want to know or ask me about or even make a comment, we'll allow a little bit of time for that. I know our time is limited. And to be honest with you, since the press isn't here today, I'll just be perfectly honest with you, so you can just ask anything you want. Well, it is indeed an honor to, over these last 8 years, serve as the Speaker of the Tennessee House of Representatives. Now, John pointed out that that's not the easiest group of people to manage. And that might be true. Matter of fact, I'll tell real quick a little quick joke that a friend of mine told me. Bill Howe, who just retired as the Speaker of the House of Virginia, and I were together. And matter of fact, I had someone over here say, boy, just trying to herd that group of cats, it just must be hard to get all those legislatures headed in the right direction, because as you might imagine, there's a world of difference between what somebody in Mountain City is concerned with, what somebody in Memphis is concerned with. My job at the end of the day is get them all going in the same direction. So I asked my dear friend Bill Howe, I said, Bill, do you get all the time that being the Speaker of a state house must be like herding a bunch of cats? He said, I do. I said, do you agree? He said, no. I said, well, what do you think being the Speaker of the State House is like? He said, well, being the Speaker of the State House is a whole lot like being the groundkeeper in a cemetery. And I went, the groundkeeper in a cemetery? He said, oh, yeah. He said, there are a lot of folks underneath you, and nobody's listening. Now, I have to admit to you, there are times I feel that way when you're presiding over the chamber, but for the most part, I tell you, I'm impressed with the integrity and the quality of the people that I've served with. It truly has been an honor to serve in that capacity. To tell you a little bit quickly about myself, I originally grew up in a rural area of Pennsylvania, farm country, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. And I grew up in a Church of Christ home. And my parents, at the age of me being 16, skipping my senior year in high school, they said, we want you to go to a Church of Christ school. So they sent me down to Nashville, Tennessee, to David Lipscomb University. And that's where I attended school. Now, lest you grow concerned, Frank Nicely always wants me to quickly point out that my mama was born and raised in North Carolina. So I've got good Southern blood in me, okay? Runs deep. But I came down to Tennessee, fell in love with Tennessee at the age of 16 and have never left. I am married a 7th generation Tennessean, Sam Harwell, and we have 3 children. One of them lives here in Knoxville. She's got hired by an engineering firm when she graduated from college. She's a geologist for an engineering firm here in Knoxville, and she loves it here. And my middle one just graduated from, am I allowed to say this? University of Alabama. Do I still get to stand up here? He just graduated from University of Alabama. He just is home and working in the campaign this summer. And then my baby just graduated from high school, and he'll be off to college this coming fall. That's a little bit about me and my personal life. But I will tell you that really the honor of my career has been being able to serve as the Speaker of the House. And I've been in that capacity these past 8 years during, I think, our state's most successful and boldest initiatives of reform. This is a wonderful state to live in. I don't know about you, but there's no other state in the nation I'd rather live in than Tennessee. We have managed our state well, and it hasn't happened by accident. We put a lot of energy and effort into doing that. And when I became Speaker, I asked my members of the body, before they vote yes or no on any piece of legislation, to put that legislation through a litmus test. And it consisted of just a few questions, and I'll share those briefly with you and then answer any questions you might have. The first question is this: does it increase the size of government or not? You see, here in the great state of Tennessee, we believe in limited government. And a matter of fact, when I became Speaker, I put a new rule in place. I said, you know what, we're going to limit the number of bills introduced every year, because bills turn into laws and laws turn into big government, and that's not what we're about in Tennessee. So I'm very proud that we've kept the size of our government limited, which has allowed us to do something that as Tennesseans we kind of take for granted, but we shouldn't. We balance our budget every single year, and there's no funny business. We literally balance our budget every single year. And I'm so proud of that, which has allowed you to live, and some of you may not know that, but did you know that you live in the 3rd lowest tax state in the nation? That's a great gift we give to you as taxpayers. But you know the gift that we give to your children and grandchildren? We're the lowest debt state in the nation. And when you compare that to other states like Kentucky and Illinois and California, and for heaven's sakes, the federal government, we're doing it right in Tennessee. And I'm very proud of that. We're one of 5 states that fully funds its pension program. We're one of 11 states that has a AAA bond rating. All that matters. When the University of Tennessee wants to build a new building, they get that AAA bond rating, and it matters for you as taxpayers. So I'm very happy. And they say, well, you talk about the financial condition too much. Well, let me tell you something. If your financial house is not in order, you can't do anything else, can you? Which leads me to my second question I ask my members to ask themselves. Does it make it easier to own and operate a business in the great state of Tennessee? We want to be known as the most business-friendly state in the nation. I'll share this story with you. I mentioned my husband, Sam. Sam is a small business owner. He's not one of the big guys. He's a small business owner, about 10, 12 people. But I one morning got ready to go speak to a group, and I was leaving the kitchen table, and I rather haughtily looked back at Sam, and I said, Sam, if there was something I, the Speaker of the House, could do for you, a small business owner, what would it be? And he very quickly threw up his hand and said, leave me alone. If you do something for me, it's probably going to be another piece of paperwork I have to fill out. If you do something against me, it's a fee or tax I have to pay. Just leave me alone. And so, you know, as a general, we've always, as a state, taken the attitude of first do no harm. Let's be known as a business-friendly state. And we are the #1 fastest for new businesses to upstart here in the great state of Tennessee. When I came in as Speaker, we reformed our unemployment and worker compensation laws, creating a much more stable legal environment for businesses to flourish. Third question is this. Does it continue to improve education in our great state? As you know, many of you know that I come out of the academic background. I taught at Belmont University for 4 years. Let me think here. I went to a Church of Christ college. I taught at a Baptist college. And I married a Presbyterian. I think I've got all my bases covered. What do y'all think? I'm in pretty good shape? Well, I do. I come out of the academic world, so it's very important to me that we prepare our workforce for the next generation. We've come a long way in our state. You know, when Barack Obama was trying to push Common Core down our throats, we do what good Tennesseans always do. We rolled up our sleeves and we wrote our own higher Tennessee standards. And it's paying off. Our teachers across this state are doing a remarkable job. I'm proud of our public school teachers. Our students now, and 2 years ago, were listed as the fastest improving in both math and science. Now, the next governor, I believe, is going to have to be known as the reading governor, because our literacy scores are still not where they need to be. And you know as well as I do, if a child can't read, a child is not going to be successful in life. So that's my commitment going forward. And then the last question I ask my members to ask themselves is this. Does it continue to keep Tennessee safe? You know, I travel this lovely long state many, many days. I don't care whether I'm in West Tennessee or East Tennessee. I don't care if I'm in urban areas or rural areas. People want to feel safe where they live. And because the federal government has failed us so much, Washington has failed us when it comes to protecting our borders. We've done as much as we could do in the state of Tennessee. And so I'm so proud to say that it is against the law for there to ever be a sanctuary city in the great state of Tennessee. And that's something we can all be very proud of, that we have that protection in place. We even increased any city that might want to become a sanctuary city. We've increased the penalty just this past year. So we want to keep our border in Tennessee as safe as at the state level we possibly can. And then finally I'll say, and the issue of safety, and I hear it from time to time as I travel around, people are concerned with our schools. They want to make sure that children are safe. They deserve a safe place to learn and to grow. And so we've set money aside for local school systems to apply to the state if they would like to hire state resource officers in their schools. We've changed our law to allow those who are in law enforcement locally to help us with our schools and keeping them safe. And then finally, working with local law enforcement, our Homeland Security is going to visit every school and devise a program looking at how vulnerable is that school and what can they do to make it a safer place. Those 4 questions have guided me as Speaker, and if I'm blessed to be elected the governor of this state, those 4 questions will go with me to the governor's office and will guide every public decision that I make for this great state of Tennessee. So with that, I'll just open it up and see if anyone might have some questions or comments they'd like to share with me. Anybody have anything they want to say? Don't be shy, I'm an old school teacher. I'll keep rattling on and on if you don't ask some questions. Anything?
Since
Yes,
no
sir.
one's gonna make a comment, I would like to compliment you. On June 28th, you were the only candidate to show up at a state fraternal order of police biannual meeting. And we appreciated it that you came all the way to Jackson to visit with about 200 former and retired and current police officers.
Well, it was my honor to do so, and I don't know, I think all of us in this room want to give a great big special thanks to our police officers and what they do for us on a daily basis. So we are proud of you, and as I'm proud to say, Blue Lives Matter, and we appreciate those who serve us in that capacity. So thank you. That was my honor. Yes, sir.
Ma'am, as governor, would you put more money in fighting the opioid addictions in this state? It's woefully inadequate.
Yes, indeed. We've come, you know, I was the first person, thanks to Mike Alder, that gave me the suggestion is we really need to travel this state and learn about the opioid problem. Nobody else had really touched it. So I set up a task force. We went up to East Tennessee State University, held a meeting there. We've been all across the state. And I learned so much from listening to folks. And I actually walked away from that devastated with how much it's harming individual lives, but it's really harming families, communities, schools, our employment situation in the state of Tennessee. So it is something that we cannot turn a blind eye to. We have to fund proper ability. Now, I will tell you that having studied it for a while, I do not believe we will incarcerate our way out of this problem. It just is not going to work. Our jails are too full of people that are actually addicts that need help. And so we've set up additional drug courts across the state. I'd love to see us put even more there so that someone could be sentenced to a rehabilitation bed as opposed to a prison bed. And as taxpayers, that makes sense. It's less costly, and it really can turn some people's lives around. In addition, we've added additional TBI agents. It wasn't as many as my task force recommended, and that would be one thing I would put additional money there, so that we can have better control of our borders. We put 5 additional ones in East Tennessee, 5 additional ones in West Tennessee to try to protect our borders from the unintended consequences of when you crack down on opioids, then you have an increase in fentanyl and other very serious illegal drugs coming into your state. And then finally, I will say it is an educational situation. We have gone into our schools of medicine across the state and tried to help our doctors understand a better way to treat pain management. And we have the current Miss Tennessee, who's a beautiful young lady, going into all of our schools, trying to help our young people understand how addictive opioids are. And then finally, I will say we've limited the number of prescriptions that can be given on the first time to someone who's known as opioid naive. In other words, they've never received an opioid before. Because one of the shocking things to me that I have learned is how the pharmaceutical industry misled us on just how addictive this drug is. And it literally, after 6 days of use, changes your brain patterns. So it's not so easy as to look at people and say, you ought to get off of this. It's not a question of willpower. It really is an addictive force. And so those are steps that we have taken, but I would commit to do all that we can do to try to prevent this. And I will say, I really believe the solution long term is not to increase the size of state government, but to rather get those resources down to the local level, to our jails, to those that are actually there where the rubber meets the road, where they're actually dealing with these people, help them fund the programs that we think would be helpful to these folks.
Thank you.
Come on over here. Madam Speaker Harwell, first of all, I want to thank you for being out here today, and I want everybody to know that me as the Firefighters Association president here in Knoxville, we're proud as a state association to have endorsed you. And we thank you for your open door policy, for listening to some of our concerns, as well as our fine gentleman with the FOP as well. So thank you so very much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And again, I'll reiterate, we as Tennesseans have a gratitude to express to those men who are policemen and firemen, those women and men who serve us. You do a tremendous job, so thank you. Anything else on anyone's mind? Well, I want to tell you, this is such a great gathering. And this, I know without a doubt, are the movers and shakers in Knox County, in Knoxville. And I know that you know, there's some constraints on all of you. I realize that you've got positions that you hold, etc. And I know that there's another good candidate from this neck of the woods. So I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I will tell you this. It has been amazing to me in my years of service how much it matters that someone will take the time and tell someone else, here's who I'm going to vote for governor, and here's why. You know, you can have the slickest brochures in the world, you can have all the TV ads and radios, and we're trying to keep up. It's hard, but we are. But you know what, at the end of the day, it still comes back to, oh, I know so-and-so, and he told me about her, I'm going to vote for her. So if you could take a time just to go out and reach out to 10 other folks and say, I've met her, here's what I think. If you have the opportunity, I hope you consider and vote for her as well. It can make all the difference in this race. So I am so grateful to all of you for being here. And I'll hang around for a little bit should any of you have a question that you didn't want to ask in front of other people, okay? Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.